I'm off. What's up? What's up, little dumplings? How you doing? Welcome, welcome, welcome to the last stream for the Feast of Resistance series. We will be streaming normally again, probably starting next week. I'm gonna give myself a little bit of a break. What's up? What's up, Michelangelo? What's up, Martin? How you doing? How you doing? I was just saying that this is the last stream of the Feast of Resistance series, which is crazy to think. I feel like May flew by. So much happened in May. What's up? What's that? Little Asian kid. What's up, little Asian kid? I too am a little Asian kid, and I sometimes. Well, I guess I'm a little Asian man now, but I still like calling myself a little Asian kid. We're closing out the Feast of Resistance series. For those of you who are new to the show, new to the stream, the Feast of Resistance is a food series that I had started um, for this month, taking inspiration from the Feast of Resistance, which was or is a workshop technique developed by Glenn Omatsu, I believe. Um, he wrote this book called Studying Asian Pacific Islanders. Um, sorry, teaching about Asian Pacific Americans. This book right here, and from his book, I pulled out a section called "The Feast of Resistance," which my teacher at the University of Michigan, great old Auntie Emily, um, she did this event, Feast of Resistance, where basically we as students had to bring in dishes about our cultural heritage or something that was very significant to us to talk about as a potluck. I kind of took that idea and name and vibe and kind of shifted it to talk more about Asian American history by way of food, or using food as the vessel to tell about Asian American history and Asian American stories. Um, Little Asian man, heck W. That's right. That's right. That's right. Um, I am doing well. I hope everyone else is doing well. It's finally not so chilly and not dreary weather. I swear my mood is so dependent on the weather sometimes. I like totally one feel into my bones because I'm old, and two like my mental health also like is drastically impacted by the weather for whatever reason. But today we're making black bean ribs. Exactly, good day for ribs. Good day for ribs. We're making black bean ribs. We're gonna do it in the oven today because we're at home and I do not have a grill, though these would be delicious on the grill as well. To tell the story of Latasha Harlins and Sunjadu. Latasha Harlins was a 15-year-old black woman, black girl who um, was murdered at the hands of Sunjadu when going to the liquor store that Sunjadu and her family owned, Empire Liquors. It was a convenience store. She went there in the morning to pick up a bottle of orange juice. And for $1.79, Sunjadu shot and killed Latasha Harlins on the premise that Latasha Harlins was trying to steal this orange juice, which she was not. But we'll talk about that in just a second. We'll talk about that more in a second. We'll get everyone kind of getting into stream, getting into the chat before we get started. I'll talk about some of the ingredients I have here. This dish does take about like 2-3 hours, so I did do some prep work, some kitchen magic as they call it in Food Network. Um, but our mise en place is simply perilla leaves, knip in Korean, some garlic, a little bit of ginger that I've sliced already too, sliced and peeled. We have pork ribs that are already seasoned with a combination of smoked paprika, black pepper, white pepper, salt, gochugaru, which is the Korean red pepper paste or red pepper flake. Sorry, um, white pepper, salt, and a little bit MSG. And we're gonna throw this in the oven as soon as the oven gets up to temp. But we're gonna make our sauce first, our black bean barbecue sauce with a little bit of orange juice as well to really talk about that story. Um, but as I was saying about that story, so Latasha Harlins, bless her soul, she went out to the grocery or to the convenience store to get an orange juice for the morning for her breakfast. And she went to go grab a bottle of orange juice. She put it into her bag, pulled out $2, and went to the counter to go pay for it. And Sunjadu accused Latasha Harlins of stealing. They got into altercation. Some fists were thrown, and eventually Latasha Harlins made her way to try to leave the store. When Latasha Harlins turned her back, Sunjaju then fired a shot um, in the back of her head, and she died. She died right there. Latasha Harlins died over a bottle of $1.79 orange juice in LA, and this was thanks for the follow. Thanks for the follow in a yellow flash. We appreciate that. If you haven't followed already, please give us a follow. It would help me a lot. It makes me feel better about doing these things. If you have Amazon Prime, go ahead and use those Twitch Primes. I will shamelessly plug myself because I deserve it. I deserve Jeff Bezos' money, and you should give it to me because you have that power. But anyways, the Latasha Harlins, she was 15 and she wanted to be a lawyer. She wanted to actually um, create a world in which black children didn't have to go to becoming a Twitch pro. Truly, truly, I am. Latasha Harlins wanted to be a lawyer to create a world in which black children didn't have to go to convenience stores and fear for their lives, right? And this was in 1992, right after, or not too long after, the Rodney King case had made its way to mainstream media. Thanks, Stacy. Thank you. Um, and so, yeah, she wanted to do that for the world. Unfortunately, her life was cut short, and she was killed. And not too long after, the LA rebellion, as we like to call it, um, started. Not because of Latasha Hollins, of course, but it also impacted it, of course. Um, the crazy thing about it, while I'm talking, I'm gonna chop up some ginger. I'm gonna finally mince this ginger so we can get going. So I cut it in slices, and now I'm just cutting it into little strands, and then I'm gonna turn it 90 degrees and do a small dice. And this is all for my black bean barbecue sauce. Okay, and so Sunjadu later was tried um, for manslaughter, right? She was tried for manslaughter, could have been charged up to 16 years of imprisonment. Instead, she was charged 5 years of probation, fined $500, and 400 hours of community service by the judge. This same judge, not too long before this case, had sentenced a man to jail for kicking his dog. So common rhetoric around this time was comparing or saying that black lives, the life of a black 15-year-old teenager, doesn't even equate to the life or to the livelihood, the safety of a dog, such that the perpetrator of Latasha Harlan's death, of her murder, wasn't even given one day in jail, right? No jail sentence, nothing. So this later goes on to kind of go into what the LA riots were about, right? If those of you who don't know what the LA riots are, they were, or rebellion, as I should start saying. Riots have a certain connotation to them. Rebellion is more like what the actual course of action or the actual reason for this was. I'm gonna mince up my garlic as well pretty finely. Right? And so the LA rebellion was when people were basically destroying property in LA. There was a lot of tension between black and Korean communities, especially since Korean communities were largely a target of this rebellion, right? It's Korean stores, Korean communities, etc., and largely by black Americans. And my stance on rioting and rebellions and stuff like that doesn't really matter in this case. I'm not going to be the person to tell a black person how they should respond to their people dying in the streets, right, or dying at the hands of a system and people who fall into the system. But it's a really important story, and I love that we're closing out Heritage Month with this story, because even though Heritage Month is about celebrating Asian Americans, we also cannot celebrate Asian Americans without acknowledging both the black communities that came before us, the black communities that paved the way for us, and the racism that our own community has against black people, whether internalized or not. Um, and it's something that I find very, very important, something that I hope you all find very important. Has it been renamed? It hasn't been renamed. I just watched something though on actually it's the link on Nightbot, but they had referred to it as the LA Rebellions, and I thought, you know what? That's really interesting because um, it makes sense, right? Like these people were rebelling against the system, a system that has and still does not serve them, not serve its people, and really goes against them, right? So instead of a riot, these people, yes, they were rioting, but they were truly, the act of rioting was truly an act of rebellion, right? So that's something, that's an important distinction I like to make. I like trying to make now that I've learned, now that I've seen that. Might not catch on, you know, hey, language is like that, but we can be the start of that. So I'm going to finally mince garlic. I have ginger, the perilla leaf, which is a Korean version of shiso. I actually enjoy perilla a little bit more than shiso. I find it a little tastier, a little more herbaceous. They are a cousin of the mint family, which I love, and it's absolutely delicious. I'm sad that not more Korean restaurants on the East Coast serve perilla with their barbecue, because it is my favorite thing to wrap barbecue in, instead of the lettuce. It just has so much more flavor than lettuce does. All right. You know, May not only commemorates Asian American history, Asian Pacific Islander American history, but also is the month for mental health awareness, which is also very dear to my heart. As someone who has his own struggles with mental health. Anyways, my oven is to temp. It's at 350. These are going to go in uncovered for about an hour. And after an hour, what they'll look like is this. They look like this after an hour. The meat is starting to pull away from the bones, but it's not quite tender yet. So what we do after the hour is done, we wrap these in tin foil and throw them back in the oven. So anyways, May is also the Mental Health Awareness Month, which again, like I said, is something that's also very important to me as someone who has gone through his own share of mental health struggles in his life. I am a big advocate for bringing mental health to the forefront of the conversation, of like general discourse, general conversation. Now that these are wrapped, these are also going to go into the oven for about an hour, and they're going to cook a little bit longer, for an hour longer, just to get them tender. All right, I'm going to show y'all real quick what we're doing on the stove as well. So, on the stove here, can't really see it. I'll plug in my light here. There it is. All right, so my stove here, I have a pot of pork fat and Korean black bean paste. Korean black bean paste is slightly different than the Chinese kind. Not too different, only slightly. And this was toasting away in here. It doesn't absorb the oil, which is totally fine, exactly what we expected. This is just the foundation of our sauce. I'm going to throw in the aromatics here and get this toasted away. And then we'll add in some orange juice, and this will be our barbecue sauce. And a couple other ingredients too. But this is going to toast up with the ginger and garlic too. In the same oil, totally fine. Just going to toast up a little bit, and then we'll deglaze this with some wine, maybe some whiskey. delicious. Some brown sugar, just later, sweeten it up. So I got the idea of this dish because I wanted to do a dish that talks about the the Latasha Harlins story, right, and the LA riots, because um, that to me is such a pivotal moment in American history that intersects the Black and Asian communities of LA, and is often, or not too often talked about in this light. Sometimes we talk about the LA riots, sometimes as the LA riots, sometimes we talk about the LA rebellion as the LA riots, sometimes we talk about Rodney King, but not often do we talk about the Korean and Black communities in which it impacted and it involved. There was a lot of tension between the two communities at the time. Um, Koreans had owned a lot of those grocery liquor stores in the area that served Black communities, right? But there's also a lot of mistrust between the two communities because of circumstance, right? Black communities were often underprivileged, underserved, and resorted to things like theft. And the Korean communities were just trying to survive, right, as immigrants here in a foreign land. And with all the media kind of twisting Black lives as these like villains, as these thieves, Korean Americans often bought into that sentiment, as they still do. And so there was a lot of kind of tension between the two. And when the riots broke out, Korean stores were some of the first that kind of, I guess, got the brunt of the reckoning, right? Right. So this is frying up now. It's good. Getting toasty. We're going to add orange juice. We're also going to add a little bit of gochujang. But this is a great story for me to tell because, like I said, it's really important to talk about how intersectionality works between our communities and ways in which we failed each other, ways in which we supported each other, and what our history is with each other. So I'm going to add a little bit of gochujang to the oil as well. Get this toasted. Right. And I was inspired by one. I wanted to do a dish that served the Black community, that was familiar to the Black community. So I thought of ribs, right? Like any good backyard barbecue, I thought of ribs, and I also thought of jajangmyeon, which was a beloved staple for Korean Americans. It's actually a Korean Chinese dish of black bean noodles, noodles and black bean sauce. Um, there is a Chinese version of the dish, but the the Korean version is the one that we're using today. The Chinese version does not use black bean paste. Instead, they use. The Chinese version does not use black bean paste. Instead, they use like a different kind of fermented bean paste. It's not the black bean though. Right. We're gonna add orange juice. That's our base of the dish that's the base of the sauce. I'm gonna have a little bit of mirin, which is a sweet rice vinegar used in both Korean and Japanese cooking. A little bit of mirin, a splash of rice vinegar. Go back on the stove, splash of rice vinegar. And we will also add, let's see, some Korean rice syrup as well. Korean rice syrup. I just picked this up from H Mart the other day. I actually haven't used this before, but I've known about this, and I really have always wanted to use it. Um, it's very like syrupy, right? It is a syrup. It's sweet, thick. It'll give my sauce a nice sheen. And then I'm gonna throw in a touch of brown sugar as well. This is a little trick for brown sugar. You save your silica pads and throw them in a container for the brown sugar. And then your brown sugar won't clump. A little bit of brown sugar. We will mix this. There are 3 spoons. Scrape up all the goodness from the bottom of the pan and let this reduce and taste as we go, just to make sure that these are all coming together well. But yeah, so I got this idea because I wanted to do a dish that kind of intersects these 2 communities that have been long intersected, but oftentimes are misunderstood or not really highlighted in the way that ought to be. Right? And an insight that I always like to share is that I think Korean people and Black people are 2 communities that can actually really understand each other very well. And I think they can do that by way of this concept called Han. Now, Han is a Korean concept of, it's hard to explain, but it's kind of like, it's almost like self-loathing, right? Like Han is a very difficult concept to explain. There's this idea of Han in Korea where it's both self-loathing but also self-preservation. As some of y'all may know, Korea was colonized, imperialized by the Japanese, such that their whole culture almost got erased, completely wiped out, right? And because of that, because Korea had almost lost their culture, they developed, or maybe not because of that, but along with that, they developed this concept called Han, where they basically have this idea of like they need to preserve themselves, preserve their culture, but because they were almost so like weak, or they have this history of loss, it's in a way that's like almost self-loathing, right? They almost punish themselves for it in a way. And for the Koreans in chat, please feel free to input in any ideas that you have of Han. This is kind of my understanding, but what I understand about Han that I find really interesting is just that when I think about Han, not just in the context of Koreans, when I think of Han in the concept of Black lives as well, I think Black people can really understand Han in a way, especially Black Americans, right? They similarly had their culture wiped out from them. They were taken away from their homelands, and enslaved, right? And there's a sense of self-preservation within the Black community as well. And I think it did start as almost self-loathing, right? But now we're at this point where it's no longer self-loathing, but Black excellence, right? I think Koreans are really coming into that ideology as well. I'm just taking pictures, by the way, because I always see Martin's name in chat, and then I'm like, oh shit, I didn't take pictures of this beforehand, so I need to take pictures. I just got an iPhone, by the way, iPhone gang. If y'all have iPhones, feel free to shoot me an iMessage, and I can be a part of your Blue Box gang. Alright. So this is coming along. I just want to give this a quick taste, just to check its sweetness and saltiness. pretty good. Pretty good. Trying to think if it needs anything. I think I will add a touch more black pepper and a little bit of gochugaru in here as well. So a little bit more black pepper, or sorry, not black pepper, brown sugar, and some gochugaru, which is a Korean red pepper flake. I'm using the nice one from Martin's grandma. Shout out to Martin's grandma. I will need some more, hopefully, if you ever go back to Korea, Martin. And that will come out. That'll reduce down some more and then become more of a glaze. Give this a taste. Yep. Okay, that's good. Yum. All right. So this away. Put this away. I'm gonna cut these spare ribs, these pork ribs. Like I said, these are pork ribs. I did not take the silver skin off. I like the silver skin. They add a texture component that I enjoy in ribs. You can totally take the silver skin. By silver skin, I mean there's like a membrane, a thin membrane on the back of the ribs that easily peels off. That you don't have to take off at all. But like I said, it adds a little bit of a snap to the ribs. These are fully cooked. What we're gonna do is just basically baste them in the sauce and then broil them in the oven for a bit, just to get it crispy and saucy. Ooh, spicy. I love the black pepper in this dish. It's freshly ground. Freshly ground black pepper. I want to cook these with the sauce. Throw them in the oven just to caramelize up a little bit. And then just kind of hang out. And then we'll plate them up in a second. So these are gonna warm up in the oven while we hang out. Quick question for chat. How many of y'all knew about Latasha Harlins before today? Can you press 1 if you knew, and 2 if you didn't? Totally chill if you didn't. I actually didn't know until somewhat recently, until I got educated about some of this stuff. No shame, no shame. That's what we're here for. We're here to educate. That's a good rib, man. Oh, wow. Oh, Asian kid did not know. Did you know about the, and if you didn't know about the, Latasha Harlins, did you know about the LA riots? That's another good question. I love playing with my herbs. They're so nice. You know, they fall so nicely. I feel like Salt Bay. I am Perilla Bay. Alright, enough of that. Enough fooling around, playing with my food. But yeah, I think, so one of the reasons why we did Feast of Resistance is because a lot of these stories went under the radar when thinking about American history. Which is quite unfortunate because, we think about who gets to write the history books and, are you from LA, sir? Sorry to single you out, by the way. Feel free not to answer. But if you're from LA, I'm very curious if you had if your family lived through those experiences. It sounds like they did, which is interesting. I think oftentimes Asian Americans and especially immigrant families, we don't like to talk about the hardships in our lives. I think because again this relates to Mental Health Awareness Month, but because Asian Americans, especially Asian immigrants, are so against reconciling trauma, right? In mental health, assistance is really frowned upon. Oftentimes, their defense mechanism when dealing with trauma is just to not talk about it, right? And kind of forget about it. and that is how it goes sometimes. Also, I am drinking Coke and whiskey from Mickey D's because I went to go have the BTS special today. IMO not worth, but whatever, you do you. No worries. I grew up in LA, but originally from the East Coast. I believe some of my family members were here in LA during that time. Yeah, yeah. I can only imagine what that's like. And this isn't to shame Asian Americans, right? This isn't this kind of series and this dish and this story isn't to shame Asian Americans for what they did. Korean Americans. There's a famous picture of Korean Americans kind of stationed up on like the rooftops with rifles, protecting their stores, protecting their kind. And honestly, I see that image and I get sad because I just think of how our system has gotten to the point where it's just like failed so many people. It's just failed all of us, and that's really sad to think about. Not only has failed our Asian communities, but also, right? I can't even imagine either. But not just has failed our Asian communities, but also has failed our Black communities, right? And this was in '92, right? 1992, about a little under 30 years before that, Black people were on the forefront of helping immigrants get into the United States, right? The Immigration Act of 1965 was largely due to the Black activists pushing for what's the word? Just like allowing immigrants to come in, immigrants from the Caribbeans, from Africa, from Asia, um, from all across Asia, right? Southeast Asia and whatnot. And it's due to that like a lot of our ancestors were able to come here, um, and and not so long after are we kind of pitted against each other. And this is, through this series, we've kind of come across different moments where we realize that, hey, these are like the idea of pitting different groups against each other, minority groups together, is truly a tactic. It's truly a tactic of those on top. And the more we recognize this, and that's why history is so important, the more we understand what has happened in the past, the better we can educate our future, right? Our youngins and whatnot. As your resident grandma, I'm always about telling stories and kind of nurturing the young, mentoring those who will eventually take over my role in storytelling and shaping the narrative, the discourse of the time. Classic example of the establishment turning minority groups against each other. Truly it is. Truly it is. And you know, I don't blame anyone for doing what they had to do, what they felt like they had to do. Um, and this is kind of what people mean when they talk about like systemic racism, right? This is what people mean when they are talking about how do we change these things? How do we be anti-racist? How do we combat racism? And it has to start at the system. And there's different ways of doing that, right? This is one way of doing that, teaching as a medium through different ways, and just incorporating these thoughts into our everyday lives. Um, Man, heavy topics, I know, but hey, that's what Heritage Month is for. It's a moment of self-reflection and um, not just celebration, but also grieving, and grieving in a form of celebration. I think grief can be a form of celebration. It doesn't always have to be so sad. I'm gonna put some stuff away as I go off camera. Um, yeah, you know how it is. You know how it is. But hey, I am excited to bring y'all more dishes. I think we're gonna be streaming tomorrow, I believe, as well, to do like a little recap with the full team. Everyone can talk about their Heritage Month stories and reflections and whatnot. But I'll give you a little sneak peek of mine. I think that Heritage Month is something that is really interesting for me. I didn't even know we had a Heritage Month until college, right? Nor did I really participate in my cultural heritage um, in the extent that I do now until college. And I know that a lot of people are kind of like that. I was just talking to a friend about how it's really interesting to see different generations of Asian Americans kind of all coming to this like awakening of their like Asian Americanness all at the same time in a way, right? And how each different generation is taking that differently, right? Like my awakening into Asian Americanness was the fuck is AAPI month? Yeah, I know, right? So I remember like coming into my Asian American awakening in college, but then around the same time, or maybe a little bit later, my older sister was coming into her Asian American awakening, and she would have been out of college by the time that I was in college, um, and so like our entryway and our understanding into those into that looked very different, yet we all kind of ended up in the same place. So I find that like extremely interesting to think about. I gotta take pictures of my sauces. All right. I don't want this to burn. There's a lot of sugar in this, so you gotta make sure your sauce doesn't burn if you are going to make this at home. Didn't know what AAPI month was until recently, actually. Yeah, yeah, and that's like it's very interesting for me to like see, especially since like the common story right now is that like Asian Americans are kind of having their like golden era right now, right? And like we're from a representation standpoint, we're all kind of like, oh my god, like oh my god, crazy rich Asians, amazing, right? Fresh off the boat, amazing. You know, Scarlett Johansson, wow, such a powerful person to be Asian, amazing. Um, and right, and like we're having these moments, but we don't really know that like these we don't know the history of these and like the long line of like activists and both Asian and black activists that have fought these battles for us long before we were here, and how we are continuing that legacy, that lineage, and that's something that to me is a shame to not recognize, right? As being an Asian American, something that I hold very dear is ancestry, right? I think understanding part of being Asian American is also understanding filial piety as it contradicts or not contradicts as it conflicts with American rugged individualism, right? And so like understanding those two for me is a very ubiquitous theme of Asian Americans, whether internalized or not, right? I think that's something that like because the are culturally many Eastern philosophies are around the collective. Um, there's this idea of like this kind of conflict between the two, right? How do we pay homage to our ancestors while keeping our American individualism, right? And I mean, if you're gonna ask me, which I mean, y'all don't have a choice because you're watching my stream, but if you're gonna ask me, right, if I'm gonna talk about this, I think that American individualism is something that is a step before collectivism. You know, um, understanding yourself to understand the collective is the place that we need to go to, right? And that's one thing that really sets me apart from my Korean family and friends. Right, truly, right? It's what as Americans we don't like. We have this understanding of like individualism that runs in parallel with filial piety, with culturalism and collectivism, right? And so I think that like as an evolution of the American culture, and this is something that I try to do with food here, is this idea of reaching this collectivism, right? And not to get all philosophical on y'all and whatnot, but I enjoy talking about these topics. So that's part of what we're here for to do, and to really change the discourse and not just change it, but evolve the discourse around Asian Americanness, right? Like how many times are we gonna just talk about I don't know I don't know what's a common trope. What's how many times are we going to talk about the topics that Andrew Yang likes to talk about within Asian America, right? And when can we start talking about how Asian American culture looks so different than other American cultures, because there is this aspect um, of Eastern philosophies, right? The man loves his calculator. Yes, he does. Yes, he does. Yo, he was like playing ball today or something like that, and he like missed the layup. My friend Kevin, my neighbor Kevin, showed me a TikTok where he put it on his story. It was hella funny. Yeah. Anyone go to his favorite stop recently? Times Square. Because I didn't. I hate that stop. Why? What's there to like about Times Square? Man said, "What's not there not to like, man? What is there to like about Times Square? I don't know." Um, my favorite stop, actually, that's a good question. I never really thought about what my favorite subway stop is. To be honest, I kind of like my stop, and that's like the same reason that Andrew Yang gave that it's his stop. So like, let's not use that maybe. But like, I also like, I kind of like 53rd Street. 53rd Street is a cool stop in Brooklyn. Um, and shit, what other stops do I like? Canal Street, always. Chinatown, my guy. Times Square is not far. No. 53rd in Brooklyn, bro. 53rd in Brooklyn. It's one stop away from me. That's right by the Indian spice store that I like to go to. I'm gonna check on my ribs, see how they are. Yeah. All right. Can y'all see this? Oh, oh, here we go. Well, that was nice and glossy. Bring it over to the camera as well to see how we're doing. All right, look at those. Those look pretty good. These are basically done, right? These have been cooked for 2 hours already, and now they just went to the oven again just to glaze up. And now we'll plate them. Let's see, what's a nice plate? I'm gonna plate on my china. Even though I have nice plates that aren't actually fine. Fine, Martin, fine. I will use my nice plates for you. Oh, that's one good thing about Times Square. LOL. Um, yeah, fair. Fair. That is one good thing about Times Square. All right. So, this plate from Annie's Pottery, where I get my plates custom made for me. Annie is a great potter. Um, she is based out in Brooklyn. She's actually my neighbor, or one of my neighbors, kind of. One of my neighbors who lives out in Sunset Park. Shout out to Sunset Park. I am also doxing myself, as I'm realizing, as I also just learned what doxing means. But we're going to plate up these ribs. Restaurant trick is to put the small ones underneath so people don't see. Right, and then place the big ones right on top. So people think, oh my god, so many ribs. Look at this plate. Wow, look at this big rib right on top. Right, and then we'll just garnish this with a little bit of perilla. Some white sesame seeds. We're gonna slightly crush with our hands. Add a crunch, some texture, some nice toastiness. All right, some color, and then some really nice Korean sesame oil. So, for those of you who don't know also, Korean sesame oil is slightly different than Japanese sesame oil, which you probably will find at most of your Asian supermarkets. Also different than the Chinese variety in that it is much more expensive for the most part. And the reason why it's expensive is because Korean sesame oil is superior. Don't tell all my Japanese or Chinese friends that. Actually, tell them I don't care because it's true. Korean sesame oil tastes so much nuttier, so much more flavorful, and so much cleaner tasting than the ones that are not like first press sesame oils. So this bottle was $10, right? Oh shit! This bottle was a $10 bottle. Oh, it smells amazing. And I'm just gonna drizzle right on top. A little bit of sesame oil, tiny bit. A little bit of Korean sesame oil goes a long way. If you did not have Korean sesame oil, oh my God, so good. Korean sesame oil is so good. You can get Korean sesame oil at H Marts. They are going to be, like I said, more expensive than your other kinds, but they are worth, in my opinion. So here's the dish. Can you all see it? This is the dish. I'm going to eat it now in front of y'all, and y'all can be envious while my other racks kind of cook up. If you were invited, I am having a housewarming. So if you were invited and you know what those deets are, I will probably have these ribs there, so you can try it there. But for now, mm, mm, this is good. This is really good. It needs more sauce, a little bit more sauce. I should baste both sides next time, but I love the black pepper. I put so much black pepper on this, and I love black pepper. And for me, a really good rib is very peppery. Um, mm. Kimchi Camp, thank you. Thank you for the follow. We'll hang out now. We'll just kind of hang out while y'all watch me eat. Welcome to the mukbang portion of the show. I stuff my face and y'all are jealous because you can't eat any of this. I'll tell you how good it is to really fluff myself up. Oh, yo, what's up, Matt? What's up, Matt? We made black bean ribs today to tell the story of Latasha Harlins and Soon Ja-do during the LA riots. Soon Ja-do was a convenience store owner. Um, think of Mrs. Kim from Kim's Convenience if y'all have seen it. And Latasha Harlins was a 15-year-old black dude. And Latasha Harlins was a 15-year-old black girl who was murdered by Soon Ja-do because Soon Ja-do thought she was stealing a $1.79 bottle of OJ in 1992, not too long before the LA rebellion, also known as the LA riots or the Rodney King riots. Mm. Look at that. Clean bite. That's what you want out of a rib. Mm-mm-mm. Yum. Yeah, these definitely could have used more sauce. Good thing I have more sauce. Wow. Whose man's this is that he's so smart that he can just spoon sauce over his ribs that he thinks need more sauce? Oh, yummy, yummy. All right. Cool, cool. You miss my cooking? I know. I miss your cooking too. I miss your cooking too, man. Mm. Yum, yum, yum. But yeah, this is like, I really hope that we can find a place where we can sell these dishes um, in real life. Is there like just like a volume thing in the corner that I didn't notice before? That explains why my family wouldn't let me go anywhere without strict supervision. Yeah. Mm. There's a lot of like propaganda, right? And I really hope that there's gonna be a place where I can make these dishes, put them on a menu somewhere, and y'all can actually eat them and also read about the history. Because this shit is important and delicious, but very important. You know? And Twitch can only go so far unless we're smart enough to invent smell-o-vision and teleportation to send these dishes to you. It's very hard for me to cook you this food through stream, through this camera lens. Um, so one day you'll be able to try these too. Can I make some for you? Felicia, are you coming to New York soon? Because that's what I heard. And if you do, I'd be down to cook for you. Don't know about this dish particularly, but I'd be down to cook for you regardless. Hmm. All right. Good to know. Good to know. Good to know. Are you just visiting? Sorry, not to like take over the conversation, but or dox you as I'm now very. I've been using that word a lot ever since I learned it. Yay, friends! We love friendship here. Mm. I grew up in the Yu-Gi-Oh generation, so the power of friendship is like a real thing to me. Mm-mm-mm. It's my happy dance. I've been dancing nonstop. Um, I really miss the club, but I also realize that like I don't miss the clubs. But I do miss the clubs. I miss dancing. I just miss dancing with friends. For a birthday. Are you going to that cruise party? I think you are. I think you told me this already. Actually, my memory is shit because well, in New York they just legalized marijuana, and let's just say that I'm a fan. I'm a fan of that decision. Mm. Unfortunately, I will not be going to that, but I'll be here. See you, Matt. We miss you. I'm sorry I couldn't see you when you were in town. I was going through some stuff. Um, but yeah, I did try the BTS meal. Not worth $10. I can literally buy a 6-piece chicken nugget and fries for $3, right? Because like that's their bundle. Um, so I felt very very sad that I spent $10 on basically two special sauces that were just okay. Because dude, yeah, it was like $10. It was crazy. $10 for a six for like what a 10-piece fries and a drink, right? And the two sauces, ridiculous. You guys remember when 20-piece McNuggets were $5? Isn't that ridiculous? Is it not $10 everywhere? Did y'all not have it? Oh, I love the black pepper. It's so spicy, and like there's gochugaru in the rub too, so that spice is there as well. But then the glaze is really sweet, um, and the citrus really works well. It's like a good background note, and a good base foundation for it. But you don't taste too much of it, which is fine. Um, I really did like bring home that story. Um, Honestly, I'm like sweet and sour gang all day, and if your sauce isn't better than sweet and sour to me, then like what's the point? I even asked for sweet and sour on the side, cause sweet and sour is my shit. But hey, I got some Coke out of it, Coca Cola that is, and I mixed it with whiskey. So there's one, there's one good thing coming out of that. BBQ gang. Oh, you're saying sorry to them. That's right. Yeah, sorry, barbecue gang. Yeah, I don't know about y'all, but like, if I ever have kids, my kids are growing up as sweet and sour babies. My future kids, if I have them, are going to grow up as Sweet and Sour Kids, and mm, I don't know what else. Pokemon Kids, because we all know Ash will still be 10 years old when by the time I have kids. Oh, thank you for the sub, Felicia. You're amazing. You're a beautiful person with a beautiful soul. I hope that you took some time last week to take care of yourself. Because I definitely did that yesterday. All I did was sleep and I'm affiliate. I'm affiliate now. Thank you. All I did yesterday was sleep and watch movies, which is exactly what I wanted and needed in life. Mm-mm-mm. You know what's crazy? I just finished this. I have two more racks in the oven waiting for me, but I'm not gonna eat them now, of course. Um, but it's gonna be delicious. Which Pokemon series? So for the games, I will go down on record saying that my favorite Pokemon generation for games is second gen. Because second gen let you go back to the first gen, and that shit was mind blowing. From a series standpoint, you know, low key, I kind of really like the Orange Island saga of the first gen. Because I thought that shit was hella cool. But my little sister, um, she grew up with me showing her what Pokemon was, and now she's addicted, which is good, which is great. She's a great human being because of it. She watches all the shows that I watched as a kid, and she's amazing because of that. Ooh, excuse me. Fuck, I didn't take a picture of the plated dish. Rip. Right? Yeah, same. I like that orange eye was really cool too. All right. Mari, don't look at me. Oh, I'm sorry. I have more ribs in the oven. I will plate them again, and I guess I forgot. I finished though. Clean Plate Club. I'm crying. Oh my god. Dead. Oh god. It was a pretty plate too. Alright, I'll plate it up again. Oh, thank you. It's a Starbucks apron that we taped over with our logo, because we are not sponsored, but eventually we will have our own our own aprons with our own logos. A little Easter egg right there. Shout out to Starbucks. I don't drink Starbucks anymore, but I do drink. I do make my own coffee. From. What the fuck is it? I make my own coffee from Kopitiam Coffee Grinds, which I like. It's very chocolatey, very rich. Um, but actually, my favorite coffee grind right now is from Greenville Coffee Roasters. They are a Filipino-owned brand of coffee roaster, coffee purveyors, and they're delicious. You thought that the tape was part of the apron show? Yo, should we make this a? Is this a look? Is this a look? Do we make this a look now? Part of Martin, what do you think? Thoughts on the tape? If the tape were like a little pocket that I can throw like pens in, I think that'd be really cool. But that's just me. or like my tweezers, right? Like you know the chefs that have like this shit, right? And they put it in their coat here. Whew. Yes, twitch it, clip it. Sorry. Where's the sorry dance? I'm sorry, chat. I failed you. I failed chat. Failed chat. It's okay. Cheers, chat. I'm gonna have a beer. Because I bought a bunch of beer for when some friends came from LA to visit, and we did not finish the beers, though we did almost finish all the White Claws. I'm sorry, hard seltzers, the unbranded hard seltzers, not White Claws. What are White Claws? Is that a tiger? I think that's a tiger from the Alps. Anyways, man, I love beer. I have such a beer belly now. I feel like I'm like really getting into my age where I am just going to have a beer belly and have to reconcile with that. I think it's so funny that you clipped that. I look at chat now. I'm just like fuck. Don't look at me. Well, this is fun. This was a fun way to close out Heritage Month. Like I said, I think this recipe was really important. Again, because it's a great way to close out Heritage Month. We can't celebrate without acknowledging where we came from and who came before us. And luckily for us, we're so lucky that we have supporters not only from our ethnic and cultural backgrounds, but from immigrant groups all over from the United States, right? And from minority groups all over the United States, like Black people, who helped support us and got us to where we are now. So this dish is not only for our ancestors, but for them. Not only for our heritage, but for them, right? We are nothing without those who come before us. But with that, let's find someone to raid. I wonder who is streaming right now. Twitch.tv. Who's on? No one I know is on.
Yeah, wow. So our early shows were like, hey, if you want to see like 12-year-olds play.
No one I know is on. I don't know anyone to raid. Hey, anyone want to give me suggestions of people to raid?
So it was a lot of our shows were a lot.
Thank you. I also love how passionate I am about this. I am, if anything, a passionate person, an impassioned person. I believe that I have a lot to offer to the world. I believe that y'all see that too. And that it would be a shame if I didn't have a platform to do that in, because I can talk for days about this shit. And the discourse needs to change, you know? Like, I'm tired of seeing fucking kimchi on burgers and that being like, oh my god, Asian American food, amazing, fusion, I'm also tired of seeing, like, fucking, you know, like, $2-3 sign Asian American places pop up because, like, who does that really feed, right? Like, okay, and, like, if you say it feeds Asian Americans, then, like, thank you, little Asian kid. I am very happy that you are here, too. Also, my updated schedule, I'm going to try to do Monday and Thursdays around 8 p.m., just streaming dinner, talking about whatever. The type of food I make is what I will call, like, you know, it's like fusion food, but I call it Asian American cuisine, where I take dishes from across different cultures as they exist in America. New to Twitch. Oh, all good. Well, new to Twitch, also new to us. Okay. Martin, fair. Kimchi on burgers, fire, but like, you know what I mean, right? Like, I don't need to explain this to you, right? But yeah, so what I do is like what I call Asian American food, in which I really try to look at immigration and immigrant groups as they exist in America, because one of the things that I believe is so beautiful about American cuisine and the foodways of America is that that I can go outside right now and buy like amazing Mexican food, and then walk 2 blocks over and buy like amazing Chinese food, right? And that I have that access, also because I live in New York, because I have that access, like that to me is quintessentially American, right? Right. I don't not your burgers, not your apple pies, not even your barbecue, right? Which also, by the way, barbecue. Must shout out Black people for barbecue. All right, I don't care what you say. Black people are the reason why we have barbecue and the reason why we have a lot of things in American culture. But but one of the nice things about American cuisine is that I have access to all these different immigrant cuisines, right? And the more these immigrant groups can come together, the better this world will be. So my goal in life is to feed not only our immigrant communities, but to feed them in ways in which they think are new, but are also accessible to them. And that's my soapbox. But we're gonna on stream. We try different dishes. I oftentimes will make things for the first time and see how they go. Sometimes I'll watch a recipe video and like learn on the fly with y'all, and we'll just cook and hang out together. So let me know if you, well, swing by. I shouldn't say let me know, but swing by if you're free. Like I said, I'm gonna try Mondays and Thursdays. It's been hecka busy at work. I do have a day job, but if you give me your Twitch primes, I can quit my day job faster. Hey, and open a restaurant so y'all can eat my food. All right. Who we rating? We're rating my guy Mango because I love Super Smash Brothers Melee, and that is the only game I play as a gamer, as a quote unquote gamer. I don't know how this works. Mango. All right. Bye y'all. Take care. Love you. Say hi to your loved ones for me and reach out to them if your grandparents are alive. Please call them. You know how it is. Bye.